Hey guys, so I'm in the studio today. It's kind of overcast, so I'm just experimenting with underpainting. Let me show you what I'm doing. Okay, so you can see in the background here, I just got my computer set up with just like a landscape. And then over to the right, I've just taken some old canvas, not old canvas, it's like rolled canvas, and just taped it to a board. And I'm doing the same composition, but I am doing a different color underpainting. Right here, I've got ultramarine. This is just pure ultramarine, thinned with a little odorless mineral spirits. This is alizarin crimson, same thing, just thinned. This is dioxazine purple and burnt sienna. Okay, so I'm just experimenting. I want to see how different colored underpaintings affect the finished product. When I'm outdoors doing plein air painting, the trees usually are very dark. I want those darks to have a color. And I've decided I want them not only to have a color, but them to also be transparent. So I find that when I lay in like transparent darks, they're more luminous. So I'm coming in with darker colors, and I've mixed sort of like a dark blue-green. And you can kind of see it here. It's pretty dark, but this is gonna lay in the darks of the trees. And I'm just playing around, so I'm not gonna be super careful with this. Trying to get some energy in the brushwork here and follow some of the shapes that I'm seeing here. But I'm going to leave some of that blue visible. These are the darkest parts of the shadows. And again, the idea here is not to get a perfect painting. It's just to experiment with these different underpaintings. Well, one thing I'm noticing with this right here that's interesting is when you put a dark blue mix onto this burnt sienna, it sort of blends together and you get sort of a green color, a dark green. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Now, burnt sienna has always been kind of a traditional, color for underpainting, especially landscape, because then you get a little bit of the complement in there. When you have green, you've got the complement, which is, burnt sienna is kind of an orange color, so that's the complement right there of green. So, okay, so kind of interesting. It looks to me already like upper right-hand corner with the red sort of already seems luminous, and so does this lower right. So alizarin crimson underpainting in the top right. This is burnt sienna. Those already have sort of a luminous quality. These other two, to me, do not. Obviously there's no warmth in those two to the left. You've got a lot of contrast, but there's no hint of warmth, therefore no hint of light. So I am going to just keep going here. All right, so I've pre-mixed a bunch of sky color, and I'm going to be grading my sky from the top. Is usually more of like an ultramarine, cooler blue, and then it works its way down towards like a warmer, more like a cerulean. So I'm using the same exact mixture for each of these. I've kind of pre-mixed so that we get the direct comparison. And just working quickly, trying not to be too careful. I want to keep the spontaneity going here. And I'm liking the way this canvas is working. It really grabs the paint. It's one thing about panels that's kind of frustrating is it tends to be kind of slick, and it's hard to lay paint over paint. So this is kind of a fun experiment, not only with underpainting, but also with just working small on canvas, kind of enjoying this experiment. All right, so that's kind of the blue that's leaning towards ultramarine. And now I'm going to start, as I go down, I'll start, lightening and warming it up a bit. Also, I'll use this to put my sky holes in to kind of add a few sky holes. Let's see, what else do we have? And I'm definitely trying to leave some of the, some of that underpainting showing through, not covering that up. I want it to be visible so that we can see how it affects the finished product. I'm still seeing on the lower right here, this looks like the most luminous. So that's that burnt sienna. And then I'd say this is a second as far as luminous goes. And that's again, just a scrub in of alizarin crimson, dioxazine purple, and ultramarine blue. The ultramarine blue is very cool. It almost like if you were gonna do a night painting, you'd wanna do the underpainting in like say ultramarine. It almost has a look of nighttime. So now I'm going to put in the green, the light portion of the green grass. Yeah, definitely liking this painting on canvas. It's actually really quite nice. And this is very inexpensive canvas. I actually bought this stuff by accident. I went to Utrecht in San Francisco, which is now Blick, and I thought I was buying a higher quality canvas, and I got it home and realized it was it was $100 for a big roll, but when I got it home, I realized it was just very thin and cheap stuff, and I thought, all right, well, that was a waste of money, because I already cut into it and mounted a piece on wood, and I was like, what the heck, this stuff is too thin and flimsy and whatever. But I figure it's perfect for this kind of application, just like experimenting. So, and I don't usually experiment very often. I probably should more often. It's kind of it can be a very educational experience. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect about the composition or anything. Although I think the composition is kind of interesting, but I'm not trying to, I'm not worrying about trying to get any kind of finished painting, obviously. But we'll try to make it look as good as possible. All right, there's a kind of another mountain in the background, which I'm going to kind of add that in right now. It's actually not that high. It's kind of a distant hills. And so yeah, I'm just going to put them in a little bit darker blue. I think I'm liking the burnt sienna. Just the color complements going on there. Again, the purple and the blue are just very cool. But we'll see. Maybe I'll like that once I add some sort of highlights on the trees. But so far, these two, these complementary, I mean, obviously with this sort of pinkish color of the burnt sienna, I mean, of the alizarin crimson, you get a lot of complementary play there. But I'm liking the burnt sienna the best so far. Okay, so now I'm just going to lighten up the grass. And it seems like in the distance, the grass is kind of a cooler green. So again, I'm going to use the same mixture for each painting. And I'll put like sort of warmer, it looks like in the foreground there's, you know, the color of the grass is a little bit warmer, a little bit more red in it. I've been using one brush for this whole thing, which is a Princeton 6300. I'm not sure, I think it's a number 6 flat. Okay, and then the grass in the foreground is a little warmer, like I said. It's got a little bit of red in it. Let's see if this is... At least in certain areas it does. Okay, so here is what I finished up with, and I think for me the clear winners are the ultramarine underpainting and the burnt sienna. In fact, there's certain things I really like about having that ultramarine in there, almost that like pure blue as the shadows parts of the tree. And I added some red into the grass here to get some of the, you know, at least some red in there. But I do like having these little pops of burnt sienna here. And almost like a hybrid of these two would be the ideal. In other words, maybe sketch out in burnt sienna, just get the outlines, and then color in, you know, just do the block in of all the shadows with ultramarine. Because I kind of like the look of that. And I do like how there's little areas of transparent paint. It's kind of nice. So yeah, a hybrid of these two would be great. This alizarin crimson, like I said, is just too radiant. It's too pink. It's good to know, though. I mean, it definitely creates a feeling of light. So there is a use for that, for sure, as an underpainting in some circumstances. But I'm not sure what. But I will keep it in mind. Purple is not working for me really at all. Little touches of that purple would be great, but yeah, not so sure how I feel about that. It would just, that's a little bit much. Then also in here, I added some, in the shadows, I added some cool blue. We had the warm, you know, sort of ultramarine blue in there, and then I added some cerulean to kind of create a little variation in the shadows. So anyway, like I said, this one here, ultramarine, and this one, burnt sienna, I think are my favorites. All right, so let me know what you think. I think it's kind of a cool thing to do on an overcast day or a rainy day or snowy day, cold day, whatever, when you can't get outside and paint. It's kind of a good thing to just experiment. And you know, in my case, like I said, when I go outdoors and look at trees, sometimes it's hard to read the color of the darks. It almost just looks like a black. But like I said, I think it's really helpful to have some sort of color in your darks, and like I said, transparent color. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this experiment. As usual, thank you guys for your pledges, much appreciated, and let me know what you think of this video if you like this sort of thing. Okay, that's it for now. I will see you in the next one.